basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience.
The Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time.
Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, tango along for the ride here with CLNS Media. Post Turkey Day, brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Okay, guys, we're going to get things off. Jeff, we'll start with you. Hey, talk about the Celtics. Undermanned, almost got a win in Cleveland. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, when you aren't playing without, I don't know, two of your top three players, I think you could safely say, right?
Sure.
Jaylen Brown and Derek White. If you can be competitive with the team that is, I guess, expected to be maybe your biggest threat in the East right now, the team with the best record in the NBA without your top, second and third best player, you're fine. You're fine. And they're still getting used to, Porzingis being back at this point. But I just want to see them healthy when it matters after the break.
Right.
When you have everybody playing pretty much every game and you can get that kind of chemistry back. And they're rolling already, and they've been without Jaylen for a good stretch here of the season. And they've had Porzingis back for, 2 games. So I'm not concerned at all about this team, as I've told you guys throughout. Unfortunately, the regular season is fairly meaningless to them in a lot of ways. I don't want to discount its significance in terms of getting better and continuing to build on what they did last year. But again, it's all about winning another championship.
Before the game started, I said to my wife, I'm not counting this. I'm just going to watch it, but I'm not going to overreact if it goes sour, because for reasons that Jeff just enumerated. It in the big picture, it's meaningless. They're not who they are going to be. And that's that. Having said that, let's give some credit to the other guys. That was a virtuoso, big-time performance by Donovan Mitchell. He's a great player, and he showed the world how good he can be. He can't be better than that. That's as good as you wouldn't ask anybody to be better than that fourth quarter that he showed up. So we give him full props. We give them credit for, I said when they lost that game in Boston, they're far from discouraged. They're encouraged. They believe they're going to be a threat. They're serious. I know Jeff is a longtime member of the Mosley fan club.
Yeah.
And I've been a longtime member, not a long time, but I admire them. So that's fine. Give Cleveland credit. They made the plays. The Celtics didn't. Although, wow, would it have been different if Mr. Pritchard had waited another half second before he went over the line on that missed free throw? Perfectly executed,
right,
as they seldom are. It's the Hail Mary of basketball when your only hope is to miss the free throw and hope you get the rebound. He did, and he might very well have put the ball back in to tie the game. Anyway, so my big takeaway was, hey, Donovan Mitchell, you were terrific. Congratulations. That's all.
Do we have a feeling, Jeff, I'll go back to you. The Celtics and Cleveland meet in a best of 7. Based on the 2 games we've seen so far, does that give you any indication of how that series would go?
I think it's going to be competitive. I don't know if Cleveland's there yet to be able to knock off the Celtics. I think they're better at every position, but Cleveland's good, really good at every spot. And their bench is good. I think it'd be an entertaining series.
Funny you mentioned, Jeff, this is like telepathy. Our audience isn't going to believe what I'm about to say. That was very much in my mind during the game. Exactly what you said. What would happen in a 7-game series? And I have different descriptions. Celtics win in a hard 6.
Yeah.
They win game 6 on the road. Tatum goes for 35, and they win. But in a really good series. I've seen those series so many times going back into the 70s. The hard 6 wins, and as opposed to a gentleman's 6 when you're always better. But anyway, they would give the Celtics going to give anybody a hard time this year. They're very much for real.
I want to talk about Pritchard a little bit. And Jeff, I don't know if I've been able to get this from you. Yeah. In your opinion, I mean, this guy is a legit 6th Man of the Year award contender. What has he done? Because he looks like the same player, but he's not.
Yeah, he could always do this. I mean, that's the one thing you're watching him. And I know Bob was a big fan of his, 2 years ago. It's just getting more opportunities, right? It's getting more opportunities to be able to kind of shoot yourself through some of those. Maybe there haven't been a lot of poor performances, but he is just, once he's got that swagger and it really doesn't leave him, he can kind of just get going.
My favorite moment in his great performance, the pure post up. Your post up, the 6'1" post up that left the guy, looking for his underwear when he scored on him. You know what I feel about post ups, but he is a good all around player. And I won't say great, but it's not just the shooting, which is his calling card and his raison d'etre. I understand that he does more, and he's a feisty defender, and I like to say he gets at least one sneaky offensive rebound a game. Or a little second chance steal after the other guy's got the rebound. He's a good basketball player. I'm very, very lucky and glad to have him. And I said, who is he? He's a cross between Larry Siegfried and Derek and Eddie House, and that's an interesting cross. So anyway, and Jeff's right. He's been ready to do this. I don't know what happened that second year when he wasn't playing. That was weird to me. He should have been playing, but starting last year, certainly Joe got the message, and Joe really has the message about him this year.
How do you feel, Bob, if the Celtics don't have the number 1 seed?
At
the end of the season?
Yeah, no different than I feel any other year, which is this. Yeah, you want it. You definitely want the one. You want the court. I mean, you want the best record because you got the home court, and that's the perk. But if you don't have it, it is not the most important thing. When the playoffs start, we are all in agreement. What's the most important thing when the playoffs start? Health, period. That's 1. Everything else is almost tied for second. All right, I'll give you the home court as 2, and nothing else matters. It's health, and Jeff's already alluded to that. You want them to be healthy at the right time. Any team wants to be healthy at the right time. If I've said this, and I mean this, I would rather play 7 road games in a playoffs, in a series, than go into it without not fully healthy. If you're good enough to in that category, you can win on the road. Period. You can win. You've done it all year. You've won on the road. You're over 500 or even more on the road. You can win on the road. You want to be healthy. Period. And so I wouldn't worry about it. I'd like to have the home court, but it's not the most important thing.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million users sign up today. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Plus, Prize Picks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4. Count them. Only 4 correct picks. You can do that. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Man, how about Fred VanVleet putting up 38 last week? Could he do it again? What do you think? The Freak from more than 10 rebounds? Give it a try on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Jeff, we have a surprise guest in the waiting room. Would you like to make an introduction?
Sure. I figured we'd surprise both you and Robert here. He's a return guest. We're talking about the Cavs obviously being a big threat to the Celtics. And now we bring on a member of the Cleveland Cavs. And here he comes, hopefully, straight from Cleveland after the big game last night. George Niang. George, we appreciate you jumping on for a few. We won't take much time. I know it's lunchtime over there, but big win last night.
Yeah, no, that was great for us. I'm sure Bob and Gary, you guys aren't too thrilled about how things went down yesterday. You guys have always been tough critics of Boston sports, so.
Hey, George, what is the biggest difference from last year's team to this year's Cavs team?
I think obviously, this year guys came in with a little bit of more of an edge, right? Obviously a team from the East, and you obviously have a little more of an edge, but also I think Kenny Atkinson has done a good job of instilling confidence in all the guys. Like you look at Evan Mobley has developed and become a huge, offensive threat, which kind of unlocks a different part of our offense. And as you know how this works, when they're going well on offense, guys play really well on defense. So, it's helped us out on both ends. I think just seriously having guys step up, we have an extremely deep team, and we have multiple guys that we can go to night in and night out. So just having that has been a huge difference maker in our success.
George, can you feel or sense the buzz in town is increasing as you guys are getting off to this start? That you got that town alive and really interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Cleveland's actually a very how do I say this? Very passionate sports town, right? And you can feel that. And obviously, the start that we've gotten off to is allowed them to breathe some life and excitement into them. But at the end of the day, we try not to feed too much into that because, as you know, it's not how you start it; it's how you finish. So that can fade away real quick if you start messing around.
Now, George, it must have been exhausting during that winning streak. I mean, you start with like 17-0 or 18-0, and it's like, it's I'm not going to say there's relief in losing. There isn't. We've done it. We've seen it with the Patriots where they were trying to run the table. I mean, you get a lot of questions. It gets exhausting.
Yeah, the toughest thing with it is, when you lose, like you learn lessons on like, hey, that's why we lost. When you win, it's almost like, well, we won, so we can still, if we cut a couple corners, you can get away with that. So not only are you fighting the team that wants to like be the team that beats you, but you're also fighting complacency every day. And I think anybody realizes that when you're good and you can get away with doing certain things because you're so good, but then another team is coming in and giving you their best shot. Like, it doesn't always get the same time. So, when we did trip and fall in Boston, it wasn't like a relief. And I think it was more or less like, okay, this is what we need to work on to the team that was the best team last year. And I think, obviously growing up in Boston, you see how fans react and how they have comments about fighting complacency. And I feel like that's the biggest critique of the Celtics is like, people are like, oh, well, they don't show up for 4 quarters or they don't show up all the time. It's like, there's 82 games. And let me ask everybody that's working their everyday job, have you had 82 straight days of your best work every single? No, but you also don't have someone there over your back, your manager over your back, watching your every move if you hit the left key too many times that day at your job. So it's tough.
George, what you just said would get you into Pat Riley's will. I want you to know that. That what you started off saying, because I could hear Riley in what you were, because that's exactly very much his philosophy and why he was such a good coach. Now I got a question. You guys, I'm going to give you something. You guys have a standard to live up to that you may not have heard much about, but you'll know you've arrived. Okay, the team when after you get a game-winning basket, such as Dick Snyder had to beat the Bullets in 1976, they tore down the basket at Richfield Coliseum. So no other team has that in their history. And I am telling you, so when you guys get a game-winning basket, you could get that game-winning basket. And then when they tear the basket down in your current arena, then you'll know you've arrived in Cleveland.
Well, that seems like a tall task. And if I was a betting man, not that I'm betting on sports or basketball, I wouldn't say it'd be me that'd be hitting that game.
It's a figure of speech,
there's a
George.
pecking
You're
order.
fine.
I don't know.
By the way, I gotta say, Bob is quoted, Nate Thurman, 1976. What year were you born?
Yeah, I'm an old soul, but I was only born in '93, so '76 is a little outdated for me.
Hey, guys,
I'll tell you something though, George, and I've said this 100 times. People talk about noise at arenas and the old days, the old Madison Square Garden, Chicago Stadium, all the current arenas. The loudest I ever heard in 55 years of covering the NBA was that series in Cleveland, in Richfield, out at the Coliseum. That noise in that building I never had heard more. So that town, it's proven to me it can get alive. I'll tell you that. I've lived through it with Cleveland, and you guys, are in a good, vibrant place. I can tell you.
Yeah, we are, Bob. But Jeff was telling me that since '76, your hearing has gone bad. So, but I didn't say that. Jeff said that.
Hey, this is why, honestly, I'm not kidding when I say this. Of all the kids, I still call him a kid. Of all the guys that I've been around doing this job, I will put this guy at number one that I've been around. And it started the first time I met George. I don't know if he remembers this, but I'm at Tilton School.
Tilton.
I go up to Tilton to watch Nerlens Noel and Wayne Selden. They were the two big names at Tilton, top 25 players. I go up to watch them play pickup. And I'm standing there, and in between games, well, first of all, I'm watching this fat kid on the other team, and he keeps winning. He keeps winning games. And in between games, I'm talking to Nerlens, and like 4 or 5 minutes, all of a sudden, the fat kid yells at Nerlens, like, get your ass out here. Like, next game, get your ass out here. I look at Nerlens, I'm like, Chubby over there, who is he? Who is he? And he's like, yeah, that's a kid who's on full scholarship, George Niang. And George turns out to commit to Iowa State early. They were the only ones who really wanted him at the time. And then everybody went after him later on the AU circuit. And he stayed true to Iowa State, had a hell of a career there. And now, what's this, year 10 for you in the NBA? 10?
Yeah, you're 9.
You're 9. And like early on, guys, we forget that George wasn't sure. He's in the G League, and he's not sure if he's going to make it in the NBA, right? You're Santa Cruz at that point?
Yeah.
Crazy. Like, unbelievable career.
George, and I know you got to go, but I have to ask you this because obviously you've listened to me and Bob pontificate our opinions on sports. And I'm sure, we coach a lot from the desk. Do you still, as a Boston sports fan, when you go to other cities, how do you feel? Like, it sounds like to me like you grew up following the Celtics, the Patriots, the Red Sox, all that stuff. When you go to other cities, do you still see that same passion, or do you just look at Boston as like New York and Philly? There's no other place like them.
Well, so early on in my career, I was playing on the West Coast, right? So it didn't really, being a Boston sports fan, whether nobody cares now if it's with football or hockey or whatever. But now that, after I was in Philly and the Celtics, continuously knocked me out of the playoffs, you kind of start to have like a spot for like the hometown team. Like, I'll tell you a story. So I obviously got in some trouble game 7, I think it was, where I grabbed Jaylen Brown's leg. Yeah. And this is when I knew it had taken a whole new level of hatred. Someone that I went to middle school with tagged me on a post on the internet. Mind you, we had already been eliminated. It was like, at George Niang, why don't you be effing better rather than grabbing someone's leg on the sideline? And I was like, I used to walk to school with this kid. He couldn't be happy for me that I've reached the pinnacle. He was like, and that's when I was like, these fans, maybe I was one of them, but they're crazy. They're essentially what I'm saying, Gary, is that Boston is, as a sports town, I don't want to say is in a league of its own, but it's up there, right? Because, whether if they're unrealistic or they're passionate, whatever you want to talk about, they're they're about it. And, you and Bob have been commenting about sports, players, coaches for a long time, since I was freaking on 6 years old, turning on Nesson, standing on a chair trying to reach the TV. But, I would just say that, I've always been a Boston sports fan, but now that it's become a job, I like who likes me, and I've actually grown to have a stiff spot for the Celtics as that has happened. So I'm not going to tell you I'm sitting here rooting for the Celtics. That's for damn sure.
Well, there you go. Great stuff. Jeff, great guest.
Yeah.
Hey, George, just stay away from the fast food, all right? No fast food for lunch today.
Yeah. You didn't see me rolling in that tight end box out to grab that ball? You didn't think that was part of the Twinkie diet that I got? You get that?
George he went on a good diet this past offseason. It's paid off. You're doing well, my man. I'm glad. I still think that stat is crazy from a couple weeks ago that somebody posted. George Niang has won more games over, what is it, the past how many years, George?
I think it was like 2020, but if you move slow and you play enough games, you can play with the good enough players, you'll win some games. So I've been lucky to not move
all
too
I know
fast
is
to
if
get injured.
Scalabrine can do it, you can do it, kid.
Yeah, you know what? I got a bone to pick with him because he runs his mouth and talks shit, and I was like, dang man, like why is he talking all this shit? And then I look up his stats, and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy talking all this shit? He averaged like 3 points.
Scal waved a good towel. He's got nothing on you, George.
There we go. That's all I need to hear, Gary.
We'll talk to you soon. Later.
So you want to go to the big game. You're looking for tickets. Celts, Bruins, BC. You want to see what's going on. Maybe you want to go see a show, right? Go check out some music. How about a little culture? So all you have to do is go to Game Time. That's it. Download the Game Time app, and they've got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you how incredible the deals that you can get on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets and going through different websites. So use the Game Time app, customize your spot. So you just pop up your screen after you hit the app knows what you want. It reads your mind. It's going to give you what you want right there in front of you. Guaranteed deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. You got the super deal. Seat views before you can buy. All right, so you click on the ticket. You want to go see the Bruins. You're going to get a chance to look at the ice, to see the angle of the ice as if you were there, so you'll know if you want to buy the tickets. All in pricing. This feature shows you totally upfront how much it's going to cost you with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Good job.
That was good. Good guess.
He's one of a kind. He's one of a kind, guys. He really is.
But, to jump off of that, though, Jeff, the feeling I get, and Bob, you probably got this feeling too, the Cleveland team's got a little swagger. Yeah. I mean, they got something going on. And I think, Jeff, a lot has to do with the coach. Haven't you talked about the coach being a different guy?
1,000%. Kenny Atkinson is a guy that obviously had success in Brooklyn and was let go, and then went with who was a Kerr and somebody else. I can't remember who the other coach was, and kind of learned, right? Like learned kind of how they did it and understood that now you're going to give guys more latitude, more freedom. That's what he's done. And look at the bench. I mean, the bench has been – Ty Jerome's been incredible this year. George has been really good again. Jalen Tyson, Sam Merrill, one of the best shooters. Like, he lets those guys go. So they're like 10 deep, and he won't wear down. That'll be the beauty of this team is if they're healthy and they stay healthy, their second unit's huge, and the starting five won't wear down come playoff time. So it's kind of a war of attrition, right? Like, if Cleveland can stay healthy and the Celtics don't, come postseason, who knows? I think if the Celtics are at 100%, it's going to be awfully difficult for Cleveland.
Right. We all agree with that.
Yeah.
No, we all agree with that. Let's move on here. Have you been, Bob, I want to get your thoughts on the Houston Rockets. They are second place in the Western Conference.
Yep.
And Van Fleet had 38 points the other night. They're unbelievable.
They're playing well, obviously. And what I like about them, first of all, here's how is the balance. The scoring balance is exemplary. They have 7 guys averaging between 11 and 18. So they're maybe not, you might, and I really have long resisted this idea that you got to have a go-to guy, quote unquote. You know, I don't mind having.
They don't have one. They don't have one.
Yeah, but I don't care because I don't mind having 5 guys on the floor at any given moment, which they will at any crunch time, that can score, that you can go to. So I don't mind that. Okay, here's the thing about those 7 guys, and I know I want Jeff chiming in here. Only 2 of those 7 are over the age of 23. One is Dylan Brooks, who's 28, and the other is my longtime. I'm a member of the fan club. I just paid my dues again this year. Fred VanVleet. Go way back with Fred to those Shockers, okay? And he's 30. Okay. The rest of it, Green, who was the number 2 pick in a draft, as you will, 22. Sengun, 22. Jabari Smith, 21. The greatest name in the NBA, Amen Thompson, 21, and Tari Eason, 23. And of course, we know that Ime can coach, and he is coaching.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's a championship team, but boy, this is a realm of a playoff team. You know, you're not going to say, "Oh, goody, we're playing the Rockets." That's a category I have for teams. So it's going well, and they paid their due. The fans paid their dues. That's for sure, right? And you can, and Daryl Morey's, it all started, you can talk about the process and all that. There was a process, and they drafted obviously the right guys.
And Ime, man.
Go ahead.
Like Ime, this dude deserves, again, we know what happened in Boston and all that, but he flipped Boston's team. Without Ime, the Celtics are never the Celtics right now. Let's be honest. And right now, what he's doing in Houston is ridiculous because, again, you look at him, you're like, yeah, they had some high draft picks, but, Jalen Green and, Jabari Smith's a nice player, but, he's not I don't think he's a franchise-altering guy. I don't think Jalen Green is either. I'm not sure Sengun is. I love the Fred VanVleet edition, like you said, Bob, because he just gives him that toughness, that grittiness, that veteran. And he's the big brother, obviously, a factor on that team, and so, yeah. And he said, Dylan Brooks, whether you love him or hate, whatever it is, the dude plays hard as crap. He defends, he gets under people's skin, he gives them an edge. Along with VanVleet, they're very different in how they do it, but I think that helps those young guys along. And even Steven Adams coming off the bench, he doesn't play a ton, but Steven Adams is good because you know what? Like, he's not going to take shit. You got to play hard. Like, they learned that even in camp. Some of these young guys, if you don't play hard against Steven Adams and Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, you're going to get exposed.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I've always had my eye on Adams. Of course. I'm just fascinated with the idea he's a New Zealander, and all that too. But there's a big, tough guy, boy. You talk about an NBA body and all that at 7 feet. No, it's a nice mix. It's a team you could root for. These people down there should have a very enjoyable season.
It's really interesting, guys. And I think that this makes the NBA season that much more intriguing where we have Cleveland, arguably the second best team in the East right now. The Knicks, the Knicks and the Bucks, we'll see what happens. The Sixers seem to be dead. But all these teams we thought were going to be in the hunt, that's not the case. It's Houston and Cleveland that have come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's not fulfilling it. They're not doing anything right now. Actually, one team that's in the long run, when they get their best player back and they're playing well without him, Orlando, they're a little feisty, dangerous team right now. And I think very much so. But no, you're right. It's nice though. It's good. It's good to have these new faces. So that's good.
And guys, before we wrap it up, Jeff, I'm going to let you say a few words, and then Bob has a story, and of course knew Lou Carnesecca well. But the passing about Lou Carnesecca, a coach from the golden era of the Big East.
I mean, I grew up that's where I grew up watching and got into college basketball. Is the Big East with Louis, right? With Patrick Ewing, but like Louis's teams were, I mean, Chris Mullin, Walter Bear, he had dudes, right? I mean, Bill Wennington, that team in 85,
84, 85, right? That was the Final Four team.
I was 14. So that was like the time when I would go to County Forum, the Garden, and watch BC play everybody who came into town. Everybody. And there were so many good teams. And, Louis was obviously one of the more colorful characters that the Big East has ever seen. And they've seen a lot of them. But he had so much talent. Even later on, Malik Sealy was one of the great ones to come through the Big East.
Right.
And remember he had a kid who he pitched. Terry Bross was on one of those teams. Good pitcher, right?
Yeah. Louis himself, did not play varsity basketball at St. John's. He got into one game, and he wasn't even in high school. He got into one game. It's a great story available today in the Times obit, but about that. But he played baseball, and he actually played in the College World Series for a second base for a St. John's team. But a character, son of Italian immigrants, a deli owner. The father owned a deli on the Lower East Side. He's pure Boston, pure New York all the way. I had one interesting encounter. I mean, I met him casually, but my favorite in 1984. I talked the Globe into letting me go cover the National JUCO tournament in Hutchinson, Kansas. Yeah. I was fascinated by it. I wanted to see how it all worked. I spent the whole week there. St. John's was recruiting a player from San Jacinto named Walter Burry. And he had given them a kind of a verbal commitment, but hadn't signed it yet. And they wanted to nail it down. And Louis' chief assistant, Ron Rutledge, went out and babysat with Walter all week. And I got to know Ron a little bit during the week. I was there all week. I got to meet a lot of people, and I did a lot of stuff. So they were afraid. They wanted that Burry he said he wanted to visit Wichita State only because his best friend or one of his very good friends, Gus Santos, was going there. And they were afraid Louis, that Walter might change his mind if he went out and hung out with Gus. So they wanted to nail him down. Louis the championship game, which St. Jack is going to play Vincennes on Sunday afternoon in the championship game. Louis flies in on Saturday. I wound up going to dinner with he and Rutledge and whoever else they brought. And then I sat with Louis and Rutledge at the championship game. And we sat behind the basket in the top row of the bleachers. During the course of the game, a Vincennes kid tries to throw an alley-oop to the man Burry was guarding. Burry intercepts the pass. One hand with his left hand, he's left-handed, pitches out, runs down the court, gets the return pass, and dunks. At which point, the head coach of St. John's, all 5'6" of them, jumps up in the stands and yells the following verbatim: "I'd go anywhere to see this kid. I'd go to Calcutta." And then he sits down. That's all.
Pretty good, man. He was fun. He was fun.
I can't imagine any of the coaches Jeff covers today doing that.
No, Dan Hurley might do something not quite similar, but with a lot of emotion. And I know you talked about that. But no, Louis will be missed, but he certainly lived a very full and enthusiastic life.
And the postscript, of course, as you both know, is that the next year, Walter Burry leads that team to the Final Four, along with some guy named Mullins.
Yeah, you were the good luck charm, Bob. Bob, always a pleasure, my friend. Jeff, great job getting George to join us.
That was fun.
That was a lot. That was definitely a lot of fun. It always amazes me that actually people listen to what I had to say, whether they like me or dislike me.
Well, he grew up. I mean, that's the thing with George.
He grew up watching all the sports around here. Yeah,
he's a kid growing up watching you guys. And and again, I will say this with George too: when he retires,
he's in the business.
He will
he's in
be
the business.
elite, not good.
Yeah, he's in the
Elite.
business. Yeah, he'll be in the business. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, Jeffrey and Bob, brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Okay, guys, talk to you soon.